Don't cut a piece of yourself to pay for someone else's mistake, he said quietly. I just laughed, putting the braided hair on the scale. He didn't argue. He opened his phone, logged into his bank app, and a series of preparation transactions started. I didn't know his touch would start an audit, a summons, and an elevator opening at 10:04 a.m., where they all waited for judgment. My name is Harper Rodriguez. I am 29 years old, and on this particular Tuesday, I was sitting in a cheap salon chair in Portland, selling my hair. The rain outside wasn't romantic. It was a cold, miserable drizzle that turned the gray pavement into a slick mirror of the sky. Inside, the air was thick with the chemical sting of bleach and the sweet, rotten smell of cheap strawberry shampoo. It was the kind of smell that clings to your clothes and announces your financial desperation to the world. A woman 2 chairs down was getting sizzling peroxide foils, her head wrapped in aluminum like a leftover meal. The stylist, a young woman with tired eyes and bright pink acrylics, was sectioning my hair, her comb scratching lightly against my scalp. My phone, resting on the cracked vinyl armrest, vibrated. I didn't need to look. I knew the notification. It was the 3rd one from my bank that day. A friendly little reminder, account balance low, projected overdraft. It was a polite way of saying I was about to be fined $35 for being poor. That $35 was everything. It was gas. It was the bag of lentils I'd planned to buy for dinner. It was the fee to keep my website portfolio online for another month. My photography website, my freelance career. A career that was currently circling the drain because my credit was so shot I couldn't even get a new memory card financed. The stylist, whose name tag said Destiny, gathered the long, thick braid of my hair. Dark brown, never dyed, virgin, as the websites called it. That's what made it valuable. 24 inches of it. My inheritance from my mother. It felt heavy in Destiny's hand, like a rope. You sure about this, hun? She asked, her voice surprisingly gentle. The scissors in her other hand, thin and silver, glinted under the fluorescent lights. I nodded, unable to speak past the knot in my throat. I was sure. The listing I'd put up on a specialty forum had an offer. $600. $600 would stop the overdraft. It would pay the electric bill that was screaming final notice in red ink on my counter. It would buy me a week, maybe 2. I tried to think of it as a harvest, a renewable resource, but it felt like an amputation. Okay, Destiny sighed, raising the shears. Here we go. The metal blades touched my hair. Stop. The voice was not loud, but it cut through the salon's buzzing clippers and tinny pop music like a razor. It was a voice I hadn't heard in person in almost a year. A voice that belonged to boardrooms and quiet, expensive restaurants, not to a strip mall salon called Sheer Magic. Destiny froze, scissors hovering. I twisted in the chair, the plastic cape crinkling. He stood in the doorway, blocking the weak afternoon light. Arthur Hale, my grandfather. He was immaculate, as always. His gray hair was perfectly cut. His overcoat was dark wool, cashmere probably, and raindrops sat on the shoulders like tiny jewels, refusing to soak in. He was self-made, famously frugal, and the quiet, unassailable patriarch of the family. He was the man who had, until 5 years ago, managed the entire Hale family trust with an iron pen. He looked at the salon, at the peeling posters of models with 90s haircuts, and his expression did not change. But I felt the temperature in the room drop. Harper, he said. It was a statement, not a question. Destiny looked from him to me, her eyes wide. Sir, this is a private appointment. Arthur's gaze shifted to her. He didn't glower. He didn't threaten. He just looked at her. He had the kind of quiet authority that doesn't need to be raised. Put the scissors down, he said, his voice soft. Destiny, to her credit, hesitated. She's the client. She said to cut. I am her grandfather, Arthur said, as if that explained everything, which, in our family, it usually did. He took a step inside, the scent of rain and expensive wool cutting through the bleach. He looked at the braid in her hand. He looked at the tears I was trying to hold back. He looked at the phone on the armrest, which vibrated again, a frantic little buzz of doom. He reached into his coat, and for a wild second, I thought he was going to pull out a wad of cash. He didn't. He pulled out a worn leather billfold and extracted a single $100 bill. He handed it to Destiny. "For your time," he said. "You will not be cutting her hair." Destiny looked at the 100, then at me. I gave a shaky, infinitesimal nod. She took the money, her pink nails flashing. "Yes, sir." She dropped the braid, and it fell against my back. Familiar and safe. She began to quickly, silently, remove the plastic cape. Arthur waited until she had retreated to the back room, pretending to mix chemicals. Then he turned his full attention to me. His eyes, the color of a winter sky, scanned my face. He saw the hollows under my cheekbones, the redness around my eyes, the cheap cotton of my sweater. He didn't ask if I was okay. He didn't ask what had happened. He asked one question, his voice low and precise. "Who did this to you?" The accusation in it, the certainty that this was not a failing but an assault, broke something in me. I wanted to deny it. I wanted to muster my pride and tell him I was fine, that this was just a rough patch, that my freelance photography business was just slow. The lies were right there on my tongue, the same ones I'd been telling myself for months. But I looked at him, at his unwavering, analytical gaze, and I couldn't. I bit my lips so hard I tasted salt and copper. The denial died. The images flooded in. Not one big disaster, but a death by 1,000 cuts, 1,000 tiny, reasonable requests. It started so small. My Aunt Paula, my mother's sister, calling me. "Harper, sweetie, you know Gavin's paycheck is just a little late this month, and the electric is due. Could you possibly help us out just until Friday?" Of course. They were family. I sent the money. Then it was, "Oh, Harper, the car insurance. We just need to cover it so Gavin can get to work. We're good for it. You know we are." Then it was groceries. Then it was a copay for a doctor's visit. Small, mundane, relentless. The borrow and forget cycle. The repayment dates that always shifted, always came with a new, more urgent crisis. I was the responsible one, the one who had built a small, precarious business from nothing, the one with a business credit card and a decent score. That was my fatal mistake. "Sweetie, my credit is just terrible. You know what the divorce did to me?" Paula had said over coffee, her voice a conspiratorial whisper. "And I just need to order a new modem for Gavin's work-from-home setup. They won't take my debit. Could I just use your card? Just this one time. I'll pay you back on the 1st. Promise. Just this one time." I gave her the card. She gave it back the next day, smiling, thanking me, telling me I was a lifesaver. The modem was just the beginning. "Harper, I need you to tell me the truth." Arthur's voice pulled me back to the stinking salon. "I gave her my card," I whispered. The confession felt ripped from my throat. "I gave Aunt Paula my card, just once. For a modem." I watched his face. I expected anger, disappointment, a lecture on fiscal responsibility. I got nothing, just that same watchful stillness. "And then," I continued, the words spilling out now, "the charges just started. Small things at first, gas, groceries, then subscriptions, things I'd never buy, a wine club, a subscription box for luxury watches, then a new card showed up, a supplementary card, in my name. I never ordered it. It went to her address." I was babbling, the shame burning my face. "I called her. She cried. She said Gavin must have done it, that he was so stressed. She promised to pay it all back. She said she'd cancel the card. She didn't. They opened another one. Then another. They used my information, my social, my everything. They applied for online loans. They defaulted." I finally looked up at him. My credit score dropped over 300 points in 6 months. My business line of credit was frozen. I lost the lease on the studio. The one I was saving for. The one on Monroe. It's all gone. I can't get clients without a studio. I can't get a studio without credit. I'm drowning. Grandpa, I'm selling my hair for $600 to stop an overdraft. The tears came then, hot and angry. I scrubbed them away with the back of my hand. Arthur Hale stood there for a long moment. He didn't hug me. He didn't offer platitudes. He simply processed the information. When he spoke, his voice was devoid of all emotion. It was the coldest sound I had ever heard. "Paula Rivers," he stated. He looked at the cracked linoleum floor. "And her husband, Gavin." He reached into his coat again and took out his phone. It was a simple, dark smartphone, but it didn't look like any model I recognized. He unlocked it with his thumb. He didn't go to his contacts. He opened an app. The logo was a minimalist. Severe icon, a stylized N and C. North Crown Bank. The private bank. The one you can't walk into. He logged in. The splash screen wasn't a friendly greeting. It was just black text on a white background. Hale Meridian Holdings. His thumb moved with practiced, economical precision. He navigated a series of menus I couldn't follow. He stopped on a screen that seemed to be a list of names. I saw Rivers, P, and Rivers, G. He pressed a button at the bottom of the screen. The text was small, but I could read it. Initiate risk control. What? What is that? I asked, wiping my nose. It's a flag, Arthur said, his eyes on the screen. Every account associated with the Rivers family name, every account they are signatories on, every card linked to their social security numbers within the North Crown system and its affiliates, is now on administrative hold. Any transaction over $100 now requires manual, voice-verified approval. From me. He wasn't done. He backed out of the app and opened a simple, encrypted messaging program. He typed a single line to a number that was saved only as F. "Start collecting the breadcrumbs." He sent it. The message showed one gray checkmark, then two, then it vanished. He put the phone away, sliding it back into his coat. The entire operation had taken less than 30 seconds. He looked at me, his face still unreadable. "You will get your name back," he said. It wasn't a promise. It was a statement of fact. "You will get your studio, but we do this by the book. Not with shouting, not with family drama, by the book." A cold, fragile sliver of hope pierced through the panic. It was a terrifying feeling. Hope. It had been so long. "Grandpa," I whispered, the word thick. They're in the house. Their family. Aunt Paula she's your daughter." Arthur zipped his overcoat. He looked out the window at the gray, miserable Portland rain. "Then we turn on the lights." Arthur did not take me home. He did not take me to a coffee shop to talk about my feelings. His car, a dark, heavy German sedan that smelled faintly of old leather and new electronics, moved through the wet Portland streets with a quiet, insulating competence. The world outside the rain, the traffic, the low gray sky felt distant, like watching a movie through soundproof glass. We parked in an underground garage beneath an anonymous glass tower downtown. The lobby was all travertine and brushed steel. Silent and empty, the directory listed only corporate acronyms. He led me to an elevator, and we ascended without a word. The plaque on the frosted glass door on the 22nd floor was discreet, reading simply, "Fairbridge Private Auditing." This was not an office for creatives. The air was cool and still, smelling of high-grade paper and ozone from the servers. The carpet was a dense, sound-dampening gray. This was a place where emotions were irrelevant, a place where numbers were interrogated until they confessed. A woman was waiting for us in the reception area. She was perhaps in her late 30s, with sharp features and dark hair pulled into a severe knot. She wore a minimalist black sheath dress that looked more expensive than my entire wardrobe. She was not the bundled-up, coffee-stained accountant I had pictured. She looked like a surgeon. "Arthur," she said, her voice crisp. She glanced at me, her eyes taking in my damp coat and the lingering stress of the salon. "This is her. Harper, this is Miriam Locke," Arthur said. "Miriam finds things. Miriam gave me a curt nod, not a smile. Harper, please, come back. She led us into a conference room that she must have been using as a command center. One entire wall was a vast whiteboard, and it was already covered in a terrifying, intricate spiderweb of notes, printouts, and connecting lines. In the very center, circled in red ink, was my name, Harper Rodriguez. I stopped, my breath catching in my throat. It was my whole financial life, dissected and pinned to a wall like a specimen. It was horrifying. It was the most validating thing I had ever seen. You said breadcrumbs on the phone. Arthur, Miriam said, picking up a dry erase marker. Her voice was sharp, efficient. They weren't using crumbs. They were using a bulldozer. She tapped the board, starting at the red circle with my name. You were right to call immediately. I pulled your full credit files from all 3 bureaus the moment I got your authorization. Here's the map. She pointed to a line. Item 1, your original debit card. The one you admitted to giving Paula. The charges are consistent with what you said: gas, groceries, small online purchases. This is their plausible deniability phase. Oh, Harper said we could. She drew a new line to a cluster of printed-out loan applications. Item 2, the payday advance loans. They opened 5 of them, online, small amounts, high interest, totaling just over $8,000, all defaulted, all filed using your Social Security number. Item 3, she continued, her voice hardening, is where they got arrogant. New credit lines. She pointed to a printout of an approved application. American Express Platinum, Capital One Venture, both approved, both mailed directly to their home address. The applications used your name, your social, and a wildly inflated version of your income, but the contact number on every single application. She underlined it in blue. It's Paula's cell, right here. They didn't even bother to use a burner phone. I felt sick. How did you get this so fast? He only called you this afternoon. Arthur Hale is a legacy client, Miriam said without looking away from the board. When he activates a file, we move. His message was my authorization to pull your credit reports, flag your social, and start deep data sweeps. It's all digital. We trace the IP addresses for the online applications, the payday loans. Every single one originated from their home Comcast account. It's sloppy. Stupidly, arrogantly sloppy. She pointed to the monitor at the end of the table. The supplementary cards they had issued, they used them for cash withdrawals. We've already subpoenaed the ATM footage from the banks. I fully expect to see Gavin's face, clear as day. She brought up 2 images side by side. One was a scan of my driver's license signature. The other was from a credit card application form. And the signatures, she said. Look at the loop on the R in Rodriguez. Yours is sharp. An acute angle. This one, she tapped the forgery, is rounded, soft. It's a clear amateur forgery. We can get a handwriting expert to confirm it in an hour. She paused, then picked up a single, pale blue folder from the table. This, however, is the real problem for them. This is the hook. She opened it. The letterhead read, Silver Pike Charity Fund. My stomach twisted. I knew that name. Aunt Paula was on their board. She loved the title. She posted endless photos of herself at their sad-looking bake sales and cheap galas. It's an application for a family emergency grant, Miriam explained, her voice flat. For $10,000, the application claims to be from you, seeking help for debilitating medical and stability issues that have left you unable to work. She slid the paper across the table. My name, my address, and a signature that looked like a child had tried to trace mine. The grant was approved last month, Miriam said. Pushed through by Paula, citing urgent need. I never saw a cent of that money, I whispered, my hands shaking. Of course you didn't, Miriam said. It wasn't paid to you. It was paid directly to a third-party vendor for services rendered, a vendor called Rivers Cohen Outreach, an LLC registered 6 months ago. Guess who the sole proprietors are? I slumped into one of the heavy leather chairs. Why would she do this? She's family. She's his daughter. Miriam leaned against the edge of the table, crossing her arms. It's classic, the fraud triangle. We see it every day. One pressure, Gavin's consulting job, whatever that is shaky. They live well beyond their means. They have debts we haven't even found yet. They need money. 2, opportunity. Her gaze flicked to me, not unkindly. You gave it to them. You gave them the card. You gave them your trust. You were the path of least resistance. You were the family member who wouldn't make a scene. And 3, she said, her voice dropping slightly. Rationalization. This is the most important part. They tell themselves they aren't stealing. They're borrowing. They tell themselves they deserve it, that Arthur has so much, and you're his favorite, so it's practically theirs anyway. They're just leveling the playing field. It's a story they repeat to themselves so they can sleep at night, convinced they're still good people. Arthur, who had been standing by the window, silent, finally moved. He took out his phone. He wasn't calling Paula. He was calling his private banker at North Crown. Michael, it's Arthur Hale. I need an immediate action. Yes. He paused. I'm executing a custodial shift. Set up a new sub-account. Number 704. Sole signatory. Harper Rodriguez. I want her entire quarterly trust allowance redirected there. Effective immediately. The existing joint access account is to be frozen. Pending a full audit. Yes, thank you. He hung up and looked at me. Your personal allowance from your grandmother's trust is now secure. It goes only to you. The next 2 hours were a blur of cold, hard bureaucracy. This was the by-the-book part Arthur had promised. Miriam was not just an investigator. She was a fixer. First, we file this, she said, pushing a stack of papers toward me. This is the official identity theft report with the State Attorney General. This document is your shield. It's the legal basis for everything that comes next. She had me on a 3-way call with a specialist at Equifax, then TransUnion, then Experian, placing a full, indefinite freeze on my credit. My voice was hoarse as I repeated my social security number, my date of birth, and the phrase, I am a victim of identity theft. Then, Miriam handed me another set of forms. This is a request to seal financial records. We seal your medical history, your employment income verifications with the IRS. We don't want them trying to open an insurance policy in your name or filing fraudulent tax returns to get a refund. We are building a digital wall around your identity that they cannot breach. I was signing the last form, my hand cramping, when Miriam's assistant knocked quietly and entered, handing Miriam a tablet. Miriam scanned the screen, and for the first time, a small, tight smile touched her lips. Well, Gavin got sloppy, or maybe he's just that arrogant. She turned the screen to us. It was an email receipt, forwarded from a source she didn't name. A purchase, she said. Made 2 days ago, $4,200, a Breitling Super Ocean watch. She zoomed in. Billed to the new American Express Platinum card, the one in your name, but look at the shipping address. She tapped the screen. 1020 Birchwood Drive. Their house. I just stared. Numb. A $4,200 watch. While I was budgeting for lentils, Arthur looked at the receipt. He wasn't angry. He almost looked satisfied. He looked at me, his gaze firm. We will not file a messy public lawsuit, he said, his voice low. We will not have a family shouting match in a courtroom. That is what they would expect. It becomes, he said, she said, it becomes a domestic dispute, and they'll try to paint you as unstable or ungrateful. We will not play their game. He motioned to Miriam, who was already assembling a new file. We consolidate the facts, Arthur said. The forgeries, the IP addresses, the ATM footage, the watch, the charity, and we make one quiet, precise knock on the right door. Miriam's cold smile returned. I've already scheduled the preliminary appointment, the state financial prosecutor's office. We're filing a comprehensive civil complaint for fraud and damages, and we're attaching a criminal referral. And she tapped the blue silver pike folder. We're including a very strong, very clear signal regarding potential tax evasion and misappropriation of charitable funds. That will get their attention." The meeting was over, the lights were on, and they were blinding. As we stood to leave, Arthur put his hand on my shoulder. It was a rare, anchoring gesture, and his grip was firm. "Now, Harper, you have a job," he said. What do I do? Do I call them?" "Nothing," he said. I stared at him. "Nothing. You will go home. You will change every password you have. Your bank, your email, your social media. Miriam will text you a link for a new, secure email service. You will get a new SIM card for your phone tomorrow morning. You will give the new number only to me and to Miriam, on social media. You will be a ghost. You do not post about this. You do not post anything emotional. You do not post at all." He leaned in slightly, his voice dropping. "They are going to feel the freeze soon. The cards will decline at the grocery store. The accounts will be locked. They will panic, and when they panic, they will come to you. First confused, then concerned, then angry. They will accuse you. They will try to make you the villain. You will say nothing. You will not answer their calls. You will not respond to their texts. You are a black hole. You give them nothing to fight against, nothing to twist." He opened the door to the quiet, sterile hallway. "The truth needs time to be properly documented," he said. "Liars need an audience. We are about to cut their lights." The invitation to dinner felt like a summons. It came as a text from Aunt Paula. 3 days after the salon, overflowing with heart emojis and cheerful, oblivious warmth. Sunday dinner. "Just family been too long, XOXO." I had followed Arthur's instructions to the letter. I was a ghost. My old phone number was disconnected. My new one was known only to 2 people. I had not responded to the dozens of frantic, escalating texts that had piled up on my old device before the service was cut. First confusion. "Sweetie, the gas card declined. So weird." Then annoyance. "Harper, I need you to call me. This is ridiculous." And finally, true. Naked panic. "Harper, Rodriguez, you answer me right now. What did you do?" They were texts I had read on my laptop, forwarded from the old SIM. With Miriam, they were now evidence. "We are going," Arthur had said when I showed him the invitation. "Why?" I had protested. "You told me to be a black hole." "That was for communication," he said, not looking up from his paper. "In person, you are a mirror. You will reflect only what is shown to you. You will be polite. You will be quiet. You will be sad. Perhaps, but you will not be angry. We must go. So they cannot tell the rest of the family that we are refusing to see them. We go. We listen." So I went. Their house was in a new-build suburban development, a place with grandiose names like Eagle's Crest, but where the trees were all spindly new saplings. The house itself was too big for them, and the interior was a monument to aspirational spending. Everything was new, too new. A massive gray sectional sofa dominated the living room. The dining table was a slab of polished, light-colored wood that could easily seat 12. It was set for 4, with gleaming new wine glasses, the kind with delicate, impossibly thin stems and stiff, new linen napkins. The air smelled of a very expensive, very aggressive scented candle, something woody and vaguely chemical. It was the smell of a showroom, not a home. "Harper Arthur, you came." Aunt Paula enveloped me in a hug. She smelled of the candle and her sharp, expensive perfume. It was a performance of warmth. Her hands gripped my arms just a little too tight. "We've been so worried about you. Sweetie, you just vanished." I let her hug me, my body rigid. I just murmured. "It's been a busy week." Gavin came over, wiping his hands on a new apron. He was all smiles, the picture of the genial host. "Harper, glad you made it. Arthur, can I get you both some wine? We just opened a fantastic Pinot." He poured the wine into the glittering, oversized glasses. I watched the dark red liquid swirl. I watched everything. Dinner was a performance of frantic, suffocating normalcy. Paula and Gavin dominated the conversation, weaving a narrative of their success, their generosity, their community engagement. They talked about the Silver Pike Charity Fund, about the good work they were doing, about how fulfilling it was to give back. I picked at the roasted chicken. I listened. I said nothing. Arthur was a perfect dinner guest, asking polite, neutral questions about the food, the new table, the weather. He was a gray stone wall, impassive and unmovable. The tension was suffocating. My silence was a vacuum, and they rushed to fill it with more and more words, their voices getting slightly higher, their laughs a little too loud. Finally, Paula put her fork down. She fixed me with a look of profound, practiced concern. She reached across the new wood table and patted my hand. "Sweetie," she said, her voice dripping with pity. "We know things have been tough. We know your little photo business is struggling." I stiffened, but said nothing. She slid a small, white envelope across the table. It was the kind you get at a bank. "We wanted to help. Just a little something, for gas, to help you get back on your feet." I looked at the envelope. I looked at her, her eyes wide and shining with false benevolence. This was the move. This was the narrative she was building for the rest of the family: poor, unstable Harper, and generous, stable Aunt Paula. I opened the envelope. Inside were 4 $20 bills, $80, $80, while a $4,200 watch was currently being shipped to this very address in my name. My vision blurred at the edges. I felt a cold, white-hot rage rise from my stomach. This $80 was the price for the studio I had lost. It was the price for my credit, my name, my sleepless nights, my hair. I wanted to flip the table. I wanted to scream. I wanted to take those 4 bills and shred them into confetti. Instead, I looked up. I made my eyes soft. I gave a small, watery smile. "Thank you, Aunt Paula," I whispered, my voice sounding weak even to my own ears. That's so thoughtful." I folded the bills and put them in my pocket. The mirror. I was reflecting the poor, struggling girl she wanted to see. Paula beamed, her relief palpable. She had reestablished control. Gavin, buoyed by this, refilled his wineglass. "Exactly. That's what family is for. We stick together. And he said, leaning back, "we've been so blessed. We just want to pass it on. This new project with the fund, it's really going to change lives." Arthur looked up, his first sign of active interest. "Oh, yes," Gavin said, swelling with self-importance. "I'm actually flying out next month, going to Guatemala, heading up a new community outreach program myself. Boots on the ground. We're building a new computer lab for a school in a very remote village." Guatemala. The word landed in the center of the table like a block of ice. I kept my face neutral, but my mind flashed to Miriam's office, to a printout of a wire transfer from one of the fraudulent loan accounts. Guatemalan Adventures, LLC. A down payment for a volunteer excursion package. He wasn't just stealing. He was using my stolen money to pay for a vacation he could write off as charity. I saw a small stack of mail on the kitchen counter, just visible past Gavin's shoulder. A receipt from a local wine shop was on top. Boutique Vins. The name from the wine club subscription on my stolen Amex. Paula, sensing the shift in my focus, reached out and put her hand on my arm again. Her grip was proprietary. "Harper, I know you've been distant, and I want you to know that's okay. But you have to learn to trust family. We're the only ones who will ever really be there for you. You can't just shut us out." Her words hung in the air, thick and sticky. Arthur dabbed his lips with his linen napkin. He placed it neatly beside his plate. His voice, when he spoke, was quiet, but it sliced through the candle-scented air. "Trust requires ledgers, Paula." The silence that followed was absolute. It was a shattering, deafening void. Paula's hand flew back from my arm as if she'd been burned. Her smile froze, then cracked. I don't know what you mean." "Arthur," Gavin jumped in, his face flushing a dull red. "Hey now, there's no need for that. We're just trying to help Harper. She's been so stressed. We were just trying to take some of the pressure off. It was just a simple misunderstanding about the supplementary card. I mean, I thought Harper wanted me as an authorized user, to help her manage her accounts." Authorized user, the exact legal term, the specific lie, the linchpin of the defense. Miriam had predicted they would use. It wasn't theft. It was a misunderstanding. She authorized me. I kept my eyes down, absorbing the phrase. He had said it, out loud, in front of a witness. I picked up my phone. Both Gavin and Paula flinched, their eyes darting to the device. I held it up, aimed not at them, but at my wine glass, gleaming in the candlelight. "This is really beautiful glassware. Aunt Paula," I said, my voice steady. "Where did you get it?" I tapped the screen. The flash was off, a tiny, silent click. "Oh," she said, flustered. "Just a little boutique downtown." "Boutique Vins?" I asked, as if reading the logo. Her face went pale. I smiled, putting the phone away. "They're lovely." I had it, the photograph of the wine glass, with the logo from the stolen subscription. But more importantly, the EXIF data, the digital fingerprint, date, time, and precise GPS coordinates of this house, tying this glass, this dinner, this conversation, all together. We didn't stay for dessert. The mood was ruined. The performance was over. Arthur was perfectly polite as we left. He thanked them for the wonderful meal. I gave Paula a quick, awkward hug. Her body was stiff as a board. The walk to Arthur's car in the cold night air felt like emerging from a deep, pressurized dive. I didn't breathe until the car doors were shut. The sound of the world rushing back in. I was shaking. A deep, bone-rattling tremor. It was rage. It was grief. It was the sickening, visceral loss of a family I thought I knew. "I hate them," I whispered. It was the first true thing I had said all night. "I know," Arthur said. I wanted to break down. I wanted to sob. I wanted to lean my head against his expensive wool coat and be a child again. I wanted him to tell me it would all be okay. But I looked at his face, illuminated in the green glow of the dashboard. His expression was calm, focused, and utterly ruthless. I was not a child. And this was not a tantrum. This was a war. I swallowed the sobs, straightened my back, and stared out the window. In the darkness of the car, his phone lit up. I watched his thumb move. A new message to F. Push step 2, tax reconciliation. He hit send. The next phase was in motion. When we pulled up to my apartment, he didn't get out. He reached into the glove compartment and pulled out a small, heavy object. It was a metal, encrypted hard drive. "Your portfolio," he said, handing it to me. "Your client lists, your professional work, your personal photos, everything that defines you. I want you to go upstairs, connect this, and back up everything. Tonight, get it off the cloud. Get it off your local machine. Put it here. This is yours. This is safe." I took the drive. It was cold and heavy in my hand. "They're going to call," I said, my voice hoarse. "After tonight, they know we know something. They'll call everyone." "Yes." What do I say? He looked at me, his eyes finding mine in the dark. "Don't text anyone. Don't explain. You are a vault. The quieter you are, the more they talk. The more they talk, the more they will hang themselves." I nodded, got out of the car, and walked to my building. I didn't look back, but as I stood at my door, fumbling for my keys, I had the strangest feeling of being watched. I turned. From my third-floor landing, I could just see their house, 2 streets over. Through a gap in the buildings, a single light was on upstairs. In the window, just visible through the sheer curtain, was a silhouette. It was Paula. She was standing there in the dark, watching his car pull away from my curb, and in her hand, her cell phone screen glowed, a small, blue, desperate light. The days that followed were not emotional. They were procedural. The anger I felt at the restaurant, the hot, visceral betrayal, cooled and hardened into something else. It became a cold, clear focus, a sense of purpose. I was no longer a victim. I was a student. My grandfather and Miriam Locke were my professors. The subject was the dismantling of Paula and Gavin Rivers. Our classroom was Miriam's sterile, gray-carpeted office. The whiteboard map of my stolen life was now denser, more complex. Miriam stood before it, laser pointer in hand, like a general briefing troops before an invasion. The dinner was productive, she said. Her voice clipped. Gavin's authorized user slip is a gift. It's a specific, provable lie that attempts to build a legal defense. We will dismantle it. But more importantly, we have the full flow of the charity funds. She clicked, and a new diagram filled the monitor. It was a simple, brutal flowchart. Step 1. The Silver Pike Fund receives legitimate, tax-deductible donations from wealthy, reputation-conscious people in Portland. A line connected to a new box. Step 2. Paula, using her board authority, approves emergency grants and vendor payments, like the one for you, Harper, and others. We found 3 more, totaling over $40,000. A final dark red box appeared. Step 3. The money doesn't go to victims. It's wired directly to Rivers Co. Outreach, LLC, the shell company. From there, it's used for consulting fees, travel expenses, and administrative costs, all of which are paid directly to Paula and Gavin. She tapped her pen on the desk. They didn't just steal from you, Harper. They stole from their own charity. They stole from the IRS. This is no longer just family fraud. This is wire fraud and potential tax evasion. Miriam brought up a new window. It was a split screen. On one side was a bank statement from Rivers Company showing a transfer labeled Community Gift Drive. On the other was a screenshot from Paula's Instagram. The date was the same. The post was a giddy unboxing video of a new designer handbag, the logo prominent. She's not even smart about it, Miriam said, her voice laced with a fine, cold contempt. She posts her gifts on the same day she gives them. The arrogance is what will sink them. Juries hate arrogance. Arthur, who had been listening silently, nodded. It's time for the first letter. Miriam, prepare the escrow. The escrow, I asked. A windbag, as my father used to call it, Arthur said, turning to me. A tactic. We are not going to sue them. Not yet. Suing is a declaration of war. It's public. It's ugly. And it gives them a platform to play the victim. We are going to offer them a quiet way out. A golden bridge, he explained. He was having North Crown Bank set up a new, temporary escrow account. Into this account, he was depositing the full amount of the documented theft from me every fraudulent loan, every card charge, every penny, $87,450. It sits there, Arthur said. As a sign of our good faith, but it is locked. There is only one key. We are going to write them a letter, offering them this key. Miriam was already typing. She pulled up the demand letter template. The tone, Arthur instructed, is not angry. It is disappointed and helpful. Dear Paula and Gavin, it has come to our attention that a number of financial irregularities have been processed under Harper's name. We have compiled a list of these transactions for your review. We list everything. Miriam picked up, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Every charge, every date, every loan, the Breitling watch, the wine club, the Guatemalan adventure down payment, the total. And then, the offer, Arthur said. We propose a simple, no-interest repayment plan. In fact, we offer to forgive a portion of it, as a sign of family goodwill. If they sign a simple acknowledgement of the debt and a repayment agreement, the moment they sign, the escrow account unlocks, and the funds are theirs to begin repayment. We will consider the matter closed. No lawsuit, no police, no family drama. It's a trap, I whispered, seeing it. The acknowledgement of debt, that's the key. It's the key, Arthur agreed. If they sign, they confess, in writing, the verbal loan agreement defense is dead. If they don't sign, they are refusing a generous, private offer to settle, which will look very bad for them when we are forced to take the next, more public step. That afternoon, two things happened. First, a professional, uniformed process server walked up to Paula and Gavin's new house and handed Gavin a thick, legally sealed envelope. The server got his signature on a delivery confirmation receipt. The psychological pressure of a legal stranger at the door was, as Arthur put it, the overture. Second, Miriam, on my behalf, uploaded my official police-stamped identity theft victim report and the state-issued victim ID number to the Central Credit Bureau portals. This act was the equivalent of planting a flag. It was a legal declaration that my name was no longer my own, and it began the long, arduous process of disputing every single charge, every loan, every black mark. The response came 4 days later, not from Paula. Not from Gavin. It was a thick, cream-colored envelope, delivered by courier, from the law offices of Bernard Lyle. I read it in Miriam's office. Mr. Lyle, in 2 pages of dense, threatening legalese, informed us that I was to cease and desist all defamatory contact with his clients. He stated that Paula and Gavin vehemently deny any wrongdoing. He asserted that all financial support they had received from me was part of a long-standing, mutual, verbal family loan agreement, and that my sudden and erratic behavior was causing them significant emotional distress. He was claiming I owed them stability. It was the authorized user defense, now on a lawyer's letterhead. "They've hired him," Miriam said, looking unimpressed as she scanned the letter. "Bernard Lyle? He's a pit bull. Expensive. Specializes in messy family trust disputes. This is good. They're spending money. They're scared." "But he's calling me a liar," I said, the paper trembling in my hand. "Of course," Arthur said calmly. "That is his job. Now, we make our next move, a soft one." That evening, I learned what Arthur's soft move was. He didn't call Bernard Lyle. He didn't call Paula. He had Miriam's office messenger a simple, confidential package to the private home of the chairman of the board of the Silver Pike Charity Fund. "What was in it?" I asked. "Not the whole file," Arthur said. "Just the flowchart, the one showing the money going from the charity to Rivers Cody Outreach, and the split-screen image, the gift drive transfer on the left. Paula's new handbag on the right. I included a short, anonymous note. As a concerned fellow philanthropist, simply suggesting that their board's internal controls might be lacking, and that the IRS takes a very dim view of such things." He smiled, a thin, cold expression. "We have forced them to protect themselves. They will have no choice but to launch their own internal audit. Paula is now in a cage with her own partners. The true, painful blowback, however, came 2 days later. It didn't come from a lawyer. It came to my new, clean email address. It was from a boutique creative agency, a job I had been pitching for 2 months, a contract to shoot the portfolio for a new hotel. It was the kind of job that could have saved my business, could have been the down payment on a new studio. The email was short. "Dear Harper, thank you for your time, but we've decided to go in a different direction. To be frank, we heard from a source in the community that you are dealing with some personal instability at the moment. We can't risk our launch on someone who might not be reliable. We wish you the best." I stared at the screen. My blood ran cold. A source in the community. It was Paula. It was her whisper campaign. She was poisoning the well. She wasn't just stealing my past. She was systematically executing my future. I called Arthur, my voice shaking with a rage so profound I could barely speak. "She's telling people I'm unstable. She's destroying my career. This isn't fair." "No," his voice came back, calm and steady as a rock. "It is not. It is, however, predictable. She is a cornered animal, and she is lashing out. Do not respond. Do not defend yourself. Send the email to Miriam. It is now evidence of libel and damages." That night, I couldn't sit still. I couldn't breathe. I grabbed my camera. I had to do something. I went out into the cold, damp Portland night. The rage was a fire in my chest. I couldn't answer her lies. I couldn't fight her in the shadows. But I could use my voice, my real one. I started walking. I stopped under the buzzing neon sign of a bar. The light slick on the wet pavement. I saw the bright, blurry glow of a high-end jewelry store, the watches gleaming on their velvet stands, distorted by the rain on the glass. I saw the harsh, blue-white glare of an ATM screen, casting sharp shadows on the sidewalk. I lifted my camera. I began to shoot, not the things themselves, but their reflections, the light, the promise of wealth, of comfort, of security, all warped and broken on the wet, dark surfaces of the city. I was shooting the lie. I found the wine shop, Boutique Vins. I didn't take a picture of the sign. I took a picture of its red neon name, reflected in a dirty puddle. The letters fractured by the ripples of the rain. I called the project Debt Light. I worked for hours, the cold seeping into my bones, but the fire in my chest was focused. I was taking the ugly, tangled mess of debt and forgery and turning it into light, my light. When I got back to my apartment near dawn, my phone had a new message. It was from Miriam. Signature analysis came back from the forensic expert. It's a definitive match for forgery. The hook on the M in Rodriguez is a conclusive mismatch. We've got them on paper. And another, from Arthur. He had just left a meeting with the Internal Compliance Department at North Crown Bank. I have filed a formal suspicious activity report against Rivers County Outreach. The text read, "They have placed a 24-hour investigative hold on all their accounts. They are now, officially, in a glass box." I looked at the new photos on my computer screen. The distorted, beautiful, terrible light. Arthur was right. We weren't pointing a finger. We were building a mirror. And in it, I could finally see Paula and Gavin, banging on the glass, screaming at their own reflections. The 24-hour hold on their accounts was a poke to the hornet's nest. The hornets came out swinging. The attack wasn't a phone call. It was public. It was a long, rambling, perfectly crafted post on Aunt Paula's Facebook page. It never mentioned my name. It didn't have to. It was a masterpiece of passive-aggressive martyrdom. "My heart is just broken," it began. "Asking for prayers for a beloved family member who is going through a terrible mental health crisis. It's so hard to watch someone you love become paranoid and unstable, lashing out and making confusing accusations. We are trying to be supportive, but she is refusing all our help. Please pray for her healing and for our family's strength as we navigate this dark, confusing time." It was accompanied by an old photo of us, all smiles at a family barbecue 5 years ago. I looked happy, young, and carefree. The implication was clear. Look how sweet she was before she went crazy. The comments poured in. "Oh, Paula, you are a saint. Sending love. So sorry you have to endure this. I know who you mean. We are all praying for her." She was doing exactly what Miriam and Arthur had predicted. She was creating an audience. She was building her narrative first, painting me as an unreliable, unstable, ungrateful liar. The email I'd received from the boutique hotel was just the first shot. This was the carpet bombing. I sat in my apartment, the blue light of the screen illuminating my face, and I felt that familiar, hot rage. My hands were balled into fists. I wanted to type. I wanted to comment. I wanted to upload the bank statements, the forgery analysis, the picture of the $4,200 watch. I wanted to burn her entire digital life to the ground. My phone buzzed. It was a new number, an encrypted chat. "Ass. This is Ava Sandrell. Do not respond. Do not engage. Do not post. Do not defend. We speak only with paper. Check your email. A.S." I didn't know who Ava Sandrell was. I checked my email. There were two. The first was from Arthur. "Harper, the public smear campaign has begun. This is a sign of their desperation. Bernard Lyle has overplayed his hand, and now they are acting without his counsel. This is good. I have retained an attorney for you. Ava Sandrell." She is the best. She will handle all communications from now on. You will also find I have purchased a comprehensive legal insurance and personal liability policy in your name. Effective immediately, they will not be able to drain you with nuisance suits. Your only job is to remain silent. The second email was from Ava. It was a forwarded copy of a new legal threat from Bernard Lyle, Gavin's lawyer. This one was more aggressive. It was a formal notice to preserve evidence in anticipation of a lawsuit against me for slander and defamation. My clients have repeatedly tried to resolve this family misunderstanding with amicable grace, Lyle wrote, but your client's continued campaign of harassment has left them no choice. And then, the payload. Attached to the email was a single JPEG. It was a photo from the disastrous dinner. It was a shot of me, smiling that watery, weak smile as I accepted the white envelope with the $80. The caption was, Proof of Harmony, Octa 12, JPG. They were using my mirror strategy against me. They were twisting my silence, my politeness, my refusal to fight, into proof of their innocence. See? The photo screamed. We gave her gas money. We were all smiling. She's crazy. I called Ava's number. A voice answered on the first ring. It was young, sharp, and had zero patience. Sandrell. This is Harper Rodriguez. I just got your email. They're using a picture from that dinner. They're lying. Of course they are, Ava said. She sounded like she was walking quickly. That's why we have a file. They have a photo. We have forged signatures, IP logs, ATM footage, and a pending tax fraud investigation. I'll take that trade. You forwarded the unstable niece Facebook post to Miriam. Yes. Good. That's evidence of libel. It establishes a pattern of malice. It's fantastic. It completely undermines their amicable grace letter. She didn't sound worried at all. She sounded invigorated. Your job, Ms. Rodriguez, is active silence. You are a rock. They can't fight you on social media if you are not on social media. They can't argue with you if you don't answer. From now on, every text, every email, every call, every Facebook post, every pigeon carrier goes to me. You are a black box. You are to go about your life. Go take your pictures. Let the adults in the room handle this. She hung up. It was the most brutally dismissive and wonderfully comforting conversation I had ever had. I did as she said. I went back to my debt light project. I focused on the work. I let the legal machinery grind on without me. A week passed. The silence from our side was clearly making them unravel. Miriam got a call from the North Crown compliance officer. Gavin Rivers just tried to make a large cash withdrawal, Miriam told me over our secure chat. Over $20,000. The teller, following the SAR protocol, put a hold on it and asked him to wait. He caused a scene. He shouted about his money and incompetent staff. He was so loud the branch manager had to escort him out. And the best part, she added, he was so flustered he parked in the 15-minute loading zone right in front of the bank. The ATM camera got a crystal clear shot of him leaving in his car, and his license plate, it's a lease, also in your name. The pressure was working. They were making mistakes. They were getting loud. The next day, Miriam received an email. It wasn't from a source. It was completely anonymous, sent from a Proton mail address with a scrambled name. The subject line was just, "Figured you should see this." The attachment was a single PDF, a travel itinerary. It was a one-way ticket, first class, Portland to Miami, Miami to Panama, Panama to Belize, a small, oin extradition country in the Caribbean. The name on the ticket was Gavin Rivers. The travel date was in 2 weeks. He's running, I said, staring at the file in Miriam's office. He's planning to run, Miriam corrected. He hasn't left yet. This is his escape hatch. He's probably been siphoning cash for months. Now that the accounts are frozen, he's getting nervous. He'll need a big score to fund his new life. Where would he get it? Miriam just smiled. That thin, cold smile. He'd get desperate. He'd make one last, stupid move. The final piece of evidence arrived in the same way. An anonymous email. This one contained a single photo. clearly taken with a cell phone. It was a shot of Paula's walk-in closet. In the center, on a velvet stand, was a luxury watch, and next to it, the open branded box. The anonymous sender had zoomed in on the warranty card, left carelessly in the box. The serial number was visible. Miriam pulled up the receipt from the fraudulent Amex charge, the serial number for the $4,200 Breitling Super Ocean. It was a perfect match. "We have it all," Miriam said. "The forgery, the theft, the lie, the libel, the run-for-it plan, the physical evidence. Now what?" I asked. "Does Ava file the lawsuit?" "No." Arthur's voice came from the doorway. He had been standing there, listening. "Now, we spring the trap." He sat down at the conference table. He opened his laptop. He logged into his secure email. "They're desperate," he said. "Gavin is planning his escape. Paula is trying to control a narrative that's slipping. Bernard Lyle is sending threats he can't back up. Their defenses are down. They are emotional. We are not." He composed a new email. The tow field was Paula's personal address. He CC'd Bernard Lyle. The subject was simple. Final resolution, Clause 12.4. The body of the email was devastatingly short. "Paula, the current situation is untenable. Your public statements are false and constitute libel. Your attorney's claims of a verbal agreement are baseless, and we have forensic proof of this. We have a complete file documenting the fraud, including the forged loan applications, the unauthorized wire transfers, and the purchases shipped to your home. We also have evidence of Mr. Rivers's flight preparations. This is your only and final private offer. You have 7 days. 1. You will repay the full amount of $87,450. 2. You will post a public retraction of your statements concerning Harper's mental health. 3. You will cease all contact. If you agree to these terms, we will not proceed with the civil and criminal referrals. To facilitate this, I have attached the activation agreement for Clause 12.4 of the Hale Meridian Escrow. If you sign this document, which simply states you are acknowledging the debt as a temporary loan, the escrow account I established will be released to you, allowing you to begin repayment immediately and quietly. This is the last bridge. Do not mistake my desire for privacy for a lack of resolve. Arthur Hale." He attached the PDF of the escrow agreement, the windbag. "It's too direct," I said, my heart pounding. "She'll never sign it. Lyle will tell her not to." "Lyle will," Arthur agreed. "But Paula is not a lawyer. She's a panicked narcissist. And I didn't send this email for Lyle. I sent it for her. Look at the offer. She won't see the trap. She will see an escape." He was right. The response came in less than an hour. It wasn't from Bernard Lyle. It was from Paula. Sent from her iPhone. She had, in her panic, hit reply all. "Arthur, this is insane. You've frozen all our accounts over a misunderstanding. We are only borrowing temporarily. We always intended to pay Harper back. You can't treat us like criminals. Gavin's trip is for the charity. You know that. This is all a misunderstanding. Just unfreeze the accounts and we can sort this out. We are family." My inbox chimed. Ava Sandrell had forwarded me the email chain. Her new message, to me, was one sentence. She confessed. My second new message was from Ava, addressed to Bernard Lyle. "Mr. Lyle, attached, please find your client's written admission that the funds were, in fact, borrowed, directly contradicting your legal assertions of a verbal loan agreement or family misunderstanding. This email, combined with the attached forensic signature analysis and the formal identity theft report, nullifies your client's defense. We expect your full surrender on the civil complaint. Our criminal referral stands, Ava Sandrell." She had done it. She had filed the email, the identity theft report, and the forgery analysis. The authorized user defense was dead. The family misunderstanding was dead. It was now, officially, a confession. My phone buzzed again. A text from Miriam. "North Crown just triggered a bank-wide, mandatory SR. The email confession was the final trigger. They're legally required to report it to the feds now. This is out of our hands. Another text. Gavin's at the ATM again. The one at the 7-Eleven, trying to pull cash from a different account. It's not working. I stood up and walked to the mirror in my hallway. The rain was starting again outside. The same gray, miserable drizzle as that day in the salon. I picked up the ponytail of my hair. It was long, thick, and healthy. I had an urge to braid it, to feel the weight of it in my hand. I let it fall back against my shoulder. I thought of the scissors. I thought of the $600 offer. I had made a promise to myself. I would not cut a piece of myself to pay for their mistakes. I looked at my reflection. My hair was uncut. My name was being cleared, and I had not paid a single cent. Arthur's soft move against the Silver Pike Fund was a masterpiece of plausible deniability. He didn't send another letter. He didn't make a phone call. He scheduled a chance encounter. He went to a quiet, sunlit cafe in the Pearl District, a place he knew the fund's chairman, a real estate mogul named Marcus Thorne, frequented at 8:15 every morning for his espresso. Arthur was already at a small table, reading the Wall Street Journal. He described the meeting to me later, his voice neutral, the polite greeting. Marcus, what a surprise. The brief, concerned chat about commercial real estate zoning, and then, as they were parting ways, Arthur remembered something. This is awkward, Arthur said, his voice dropping to a confidential tone. He pulled a small, black USB drive from his waistcoat pocket. I received this anonymously. It appears to relate to your fund. As a fellow philanthropist, I felt you should see it. It's troubling. I'm sure it's just a clerical error. He didn't explain. He didn't accuse. He just slid the drive, which had no label, across the marble table. Miriam had prepared the contents. It wasn't the full, sprawling file of my case. It was one elegant, horrifying report. Selected expenditures versus documentation. It listed just over $40,000 in community outreach and grant fulfillment spending directed to Rivers Cohen outreach. The second column, submitted receipts deliverables, was just a series of blank cells and stark red NA flags. It was a report of pure, empty air. The blowback was immediate. Miriam, who seemed to have sources everywhere, was monitoring the internal chatter. By 4 p.m. that day, the Silver Pike Board had convened an emergency executive session via Zoom. By 4:30, they had voted unanimously to commission a full, independent forensic audit. By 5 p.m., Aunt Paula's access to all fund accounts, her charity email, and even the building's keycard system was suspended. Pending review. The first, and most important, wall of her social fortress had crumbled. Bernard Lyle, their pit bull lawyer, was furious. His clients were hemorrhaging credibility and, more importantly, cash. He responded not with negotiation, but with pure, desperate aggression. A new legal filing landed on Ava Sandrill's desk. This time, it was an application for an emergency restraining order. Against me, it claimed I was stalking and harassing his clients. It cited my erratic behavior and my campaign of slander. It twisted my silent presence at the dinner into an act of psychological intimidation and claimed my photography project was a thinly veiled threat. He was trying to get a judge to muzzle me, to legally paint me as the obsessed aggressor. I called Ava, my voice tight with panic. Can he do that? Can I go to jail for taking pictures? Ava's email response arrived 10 minutes later. Calm down. He's throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. See my attached response to the court. Her filing was brutally short. 3 sentences. Your Honor, Mr. Lyle's motion is baseless and a clear abuse of process. My client, Ms. Rodriguez, has had 0 contact with his clients. All communication has been initiated by Rivers Co., or has been routed exclusively through legal counsel, as evidenced by the attached correspondence. We submit that this motion is a frivolous and desperate attempt to silence a victim. The judge dismissed Lyle's motion without a hearing. The spaghetti did not stick. The true, inescapable trap, however, wasn't the civil suit. It was the administrative one. Miriam was now coordinating directly with the State Department of Revenue. "This is the kill shot," she explained in her office, pointing to the Rivers Coeco LLC flowchart. "They've been paying themselves management fees from the stolen Silver Pike money. That's income. But they haven't been claiming those fees on their personal tax returns. They've been living on tax-free, stolen money for at least 3 years. The IRS doesn't care about family drama. They care about undeclared income." Miriam's referral to the state tax investigator wasn't just a suggestion, it was a completed case file. Simultaneously, North Crown Bank, having filed their mandatory SR, moved to protect themselves. They placed what the compliance officer called a glass bell over every account tied to the Rivers name. It wasn't an outright freeze. A freeze would have allowed Lyle to sue the bank. It was, as Arthur explained, a procedural delay. Any transaction over $500, in or out, was automatically flagged and held for a 24-hour manual review. It meant they couldn't make payroll. If they had any, they couldn't pay their mortgage automatically, they couldn't transfer large sums of cash. They couldn't even pay Bernard Lyle's retainer on time. They were financially paralyzed, suffocating slowly in administrative red tape. Gavin, true to Miriam's profile, got stupid. He tried to get off the grid. We saw the transaction attempt a $10,000 transfer from his dwindling personal checking account to a major domestic cryptocurrency exchange. He was trying to buy Bitcoin, to move his money somewhere the bank couldn't hold it. The glass bell stopped it. The 24-hour hold gave Miriam all the time she needed. She didn't just call the exchange. She sent them the official, court-stamped identity theft report and the pending fraud investigation file. The exchange's compliance department, terrified of being implicated in money laundering, didn't just freeze the transaction. They locked Gavin's entire account under a mandatory Know Your Customer, or KYC, compliance review. He had tried to run his money through a digital tunnel, only to find Miriam waiting at the other end to brick it up. While Gavin was hitting digital walls, Ava was gathering an army. She had identified the other 3 victims from the Silver Pike grants that Miriam had found. She sent them each a quiet, formal letter. "It's called a letter of inquiry," she told me. "It's not an accusation. It just says, we are representing a client in a case against Rivers Co. Outreach. Your name appeared in their financial records. We believe you may be a witness, or perhaps a fellow victim. If you have had a similar experience, please contact us." 2 of them responded within a day. One was an elderly man who had been told his emergency home repair grant was denied, though the funds were paid out. The other was a young family who thought they were getting a grant for medical bills they never received. Both were furious. Both agreed to sign sworn affidavits. The case was no longer just me versus them. It was a pattern of behavior. Amidst all this, I was still broke. The legal fight was winning on paper, but it didn't pay my rent, which was now late. I was staring at a new final notice on my electric bill. I felt the old, cold panic rising. I was about to call Arthur and ask for a loan, a move that felt like a sickening, humiliating defeat. I didn't have to. A check arrived by courier. It was from a new LLC I had never heard of, Haldane Bridge Fund. It was for $5,000. There was no note. I called Arthur, confused and choking up. "Grandpa, I can't accept this." "It's not a gift," he said gruffly. "And it's not a loan. A loan creates a power dynamic. This is a bridge. It's a non-recourse grant to keep you stable while the legal process finishes. I am not supporting you. Harper, I am investing in my asset. Your name. I cannot have my asset sleeping in her car. Pay your bills. Now, get back to work." He was giving me footing, not a handout, but a foundation. I paid my rent, I paid my electric bill, and then I took the rest of the money, and I bought ad space on Instagram and a few key local art blogs. I posted the Debt Light portfolio. I didn't add a story. I didn't mention my family. I just posted the images, the broken neon light in the puddle, the stark blue glare of the ATM, the distorted reflection of the wine shop. The caption was simple. Debt Light, a study of reflections and distortions. Portland, 2025. The response was immediate. The photos were raw, emotional, and technically sharp. They resonated with a city that understood rain and shadow. An email appeared in my new, secure inbox. It was from the boutique hotel that had rejected me. Ms. Rodriguez, we saw your Debt Light series. It is extraordinary. Exactly the kind of honest, emotional edge we are looking for. We were misinformed regarding your stability. The job is yours, if you still want it. 2 hours later, another email, a local gallery. They wanted to show the Debt Light series as a featured exhibit. I had my career back. The public narrative, the one Paula had worked so hard to control, began to fracture. The whispers in the Portland charity scene were no longer about poor, unstable Harper. The new rumor was, "Did you hear Silver Pike is under a forensic audit?" Suddenly, people were remembering Paula's new car. They were remembering Gavin's constant consulting trips, the social wall that had protected her, built on a foundation of charm and pity, was cracking under the weight of financial reality. Gavin felt the shift. He was trapped. His crypto was frozen. His bank accounts were useless. His plane ticket to Bice was a worthless piece of paper. He made one last frantic call to his lawyer. Bernard Lyle called Ava. He was a different man. The pit bull was gone, replaced by a weary, exhausted negotiator. "My client is agitated," Lyle said, his voice flat. "He is threatening to file a countersuit for defamation, for the audit at the fund. He feels he is being targeted. He feels this is harassment." Ava just laughed, a short, sharp, humorless sound. "Is he tell Gavin his run to Bice is cancelled? Tell him the state tax investigators send their regards. Tell him to take the deal." Lyle was silent for a long time. "I will advise my client. I told Arthur about the call, about the crumbling walls, about the audit." I felt a surge of triumph, of righteous vindication. They're done. Everyone is finally seeing the truth. They're seeing what they really are. Arthur simply folded his newspaper. He looked at me, his eyes calm. "Heroes do not need crowds. Harper, they only need to be right." "But they do," I said. "They need crowds to cheer for them when they win." He shook his head. "No, that's for movie stars. Villains. Villains need crowds, to applaud their lies, to believe their performance. We just took their audience away. All they have left is time, and the bill." The summons came from my grandmother, Alina Hale. Her voice, thin as parchment over the phone, held the one authority in the family that even Arthur respected. "Harper, we are all meeting, here, at my house, Sunday, 2 o'clock. You will come." It was not a request. Arthur and I drove over together. "Ava and Miriam will not be there," he said as we parked on the quiet, tree-lined street of her neighborhood. "This is not a legal proceeding. This is a family tribunal. They have called it to shame you. You will go, you will listen, and you will be a witness to their final performance." The house was warm and smelled of old furniture polish and the faint, sweet scent of my grandmother's perfume. But the atmosphere in the formal living room was arctic. They were all there. My Uncle Mark and his wife, my other aunt, Catherine, my cousin, Ben, and in the center, on the floral love seat, sat Paula and Gavin. They had positioned themselves as the victims, a united front of wounded innocence. I was the defendant. The moment I walked in, every eye in the room fixed on me, heavy with judgment. I was the one who had brought lawyers into the family. I was the one airing dirty laundry. I was the one who was unstable and persecuting poor Paula. I sat in a stiff-backed chair, Arthur standing behind me, a silent, gray sentinel. My grandmother, Alina, sat in her own armchair, separate from the group. She looked at me, her eyes clouded with age but sharp. As I sat, she reached out, her frail, trembling hand finding mine. She squeezed it, once, a jolt of pure, unexpected steel. My Uncle Mark, the self-appointed family spokesman, cleared his throat. "Harper," he began, his voice deep with paternal disappointment. "This has gone on long enough. This, This vendetta. You're tearing this family apart. Your grandfather is funding lawyers. He's freezing accounts. This is not how we do things." On cue, Paula dissolved. It was a masterful, heartbreaking performance. She pressed a crumpled tissue to her eyes, her shoulders shaking. I just don't understand," she wept, her voice cracking. "We were only trying to help her. My whole life, you all know, it's been a struggle. After my first husband left, a single mother. I never had the advantages Arthur gave." Her voice caught, implying my own mother. "I was just trying to keep my head above water. I tried to help Harper. I tried to be there for her. And this is what I get. Audits. My own father turning on me. She's trying to ruin me." The room was saturated with her grief. My Aunt Catherine looked at me with open disgust. I was the monster. I was the cold, cruel, privileged niece, backed by Arthur's money, persecuting the family's hard-luck case. Arthur had not moved. He stood by the mantelpiece, watching, when Paula's sobs subsided into pathetic little gasps. He finally spoke. His voice was not angry. It was not loud. It was quiet, and it was cold, and it cut through the emotional humidity like a shard of glass. "Paula, you speak of struggle," he said. "Let us speak of facts." The room went utterly still. "On August 12th, Arthur continued, his voice a calm monotone, "a charge was made in Harper's name to a jeweler for $4,200 for a Breitling Super Ocean watch, serial number 81872. It was shipped to your address." Paula's head snapped up, her eyes wide with shock. The tears stopped, frozen. "On September 4th, Arthur went on, "a wire transfer was approved by you, from the Silver Pike Charity Fund, for $10,000. The recipient was Rivers and Company Outreach. The stated purpose was a family emergency grant for Harper Rodriguez. Harper never received $1. On September 19th, your LLC received another payment from the fund for a community gift drive. On the same day, you posted a video on your Instagram account of a new Celine handbag. The timestamps match. The bank transfer and the unboxing post were less than an hour apart." He wasn't arguing. He was reading a ledger from memory. The sympathy in the room was evaporating, being replaced by a cold, dawning horror. Those were repayments for expenses," Gavin stammered, his face turning a blotchy red. "Expenses." Arthur's gaze shifted to him, such as the $4,200 watch, into the terrible silence. A new voice spoke. My cousin Ben. He was pale, and he was looking not at me, but at Paula. "Aunt Paula," Ben said, his voice quiet. What about the $500 I loaned you last year for your car payment? You said you were about to be towed. You said you'd pay me back the next week." Paula's face went white. You never did," Ben finished, the accusation hanging in the air. My Aunt Catherine's head whipped around. "Wait, Paula. You told me you were having car trouble. You told me you needed $300 for a new alternator." The dam of family secrets didn't just crack. It burst. It wasn't just me. I wasn't an isolated case. I was just the one they had pushed too far. The one who had an $87,000 balance. I was the one who, thanks to Arthur, had a map of the entire operation. Gavin, sweating now, tried to seize control. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is all just family misunderstandings. This is why we have a lawyer to sort this mess out. Bernard, Mr. Lyle, he already made a very generous offer to settle this, a very fair offer. He was trying to reestablish their narrative that this was a legal dispute, a negotiation between equals. Uncle Mark seized on it, relieved. "See, Arthur, an offer, 60%. I heard, take it. Harper, take the money, and let's end this. Let's put this family back together." All eyes turned to me. They were desperate for this to be over. They were willing to pay 60 cents on the dollar, my dollar, to make the discomfort go away. I found my voice. It was not the shaky, emotional voice of the girl in the salon. It was the cold, clear voice of Ava Sandrell, channeled through me. Ava's counteroffer was clear, I said, my words dropping like stones into the quiet room. 100% of all stolen funds, plus all documented legal and administrative fees, a sharp intake of breath from Paula. And, I continued, a full, public letter of apology, not to me, to the donors and the board of the Silver Pike Fund, admitting to the misappropriation of funds. That's blackmail, Uncle Mark sputtered. That's restitution, Arthur said from the mantel. And if we refuse, Gavin sneered, trying to find his footing. Then, I said, looking him dead in the eye, we will see you in court, the civil court for the fraud, and we will see you in the criminal court for the tax evasion, the identity theft, and the wire fraud. Ava has already filed the criminal referrals. Paula looked at me, and for the first time, all the victimhood, all the false warmth, all the manipulative tears were gone. Her face was a mask of pure reptilian hatred. You would do that, she hissed. To your family. I stood up. I was done. You sat at your new 12-person table and handed me $80, while you were wearing a watch you bought with my future. You used my name, my credit, and my work to pay for your life. You're right. I looked her in the eye. I'm not paying for your lies anymore. This is insane, Gavin exploded, leaping to his feet. He was desperate, his mask of geniality completely gone. You can't do this. We are trying to be reasonable. I have a major outreach trip to organize. I am supposed to be in Bai's in 2 weeks. This is harassment. Bai's, he said it, the non-extradition country, the one-way ticket. He had just announced his flight plan to a room full of witnesses. There was a small, choked sound from Paula. A tiny, It was the sound of a spring trap snapping shut. She knew he had just admitted everything. The meeting dissolved. It didn't end. It just broke apart. No one said goodbye. No one hugged. My aunts and my cousin filed out of the room, their faces pale, refusing to make eye contact with Paula or Gavin, who were left sitting alone on the floral sofa, a toxic island in the middle of the room. The drive home with Arthur was silent. When I got to my apartment, there were 2 messages. The first was from Miriam. Subject anonymous tip. The attachment was a photo, taken at an angle, of a computer monitor at the Portland airport. It was a boarding pass. Portland to Miami, Miami to Panama City to Bai's. The name on the ticket, Gavin T. Rivers. An airline employee recognized his name from the Silver Pike internal audit email. Miriam's text read, He's a donor. He said he thought we should know. The chain is complete. We have proof of intent to flee. The second message was from Arthur. He had sent it from the car. Michael, it read, a forward of an email to his banker. Please schedule the final quarterly control review meeting for my holdings. I need all relevant parties present. Yes, that includes Ms. Paula Rivers and Mr. Gavin Rivers, as they are tangentially related to the family trust, and my legal team. Of course, please book the main tower conference room, Monday, 4 a.m. Yes, 10:04. Thank you. I stared at the time. 10:04. I texted him back. His reply was instantaneous. The Federal Audit Code for willful and knowing misappropriation. It's a quiet signal to the bank's internal fraud and compliance division. They will be in attendance. The last 2 days before the meeting were the quietest of all. Miriam told me Paula was burning the phone lines. She was calling her friends in the charity circle. She was calling other family members. She was calling board members. No one was taking her call. Her social capital was gone. Her Facebook page, once a flurry of activity, was silent. The last message I received was Sunday night. It was from my grandmother, Alina. I was in the car, across the street. Harper, that day at the salon, I saw you go in. I saw your hair. I was the one who called your grandfather. I stared at the words, my heart stopping. A new text came through. He always listened to me. I am so proud of you. Now go finish it. And don't you ever cut your hair for anyone. Cutting them off is enough. The main conference room at North Crown Tower was a glass box on the 30th floor, overlooking a city shrouded in cold, gray mist. It was designed to convey power, transparency, and an absolute lack of warmth. The air was chilled to a precise 68 degrees and smelled of nothing at all. It was 9:15 in the morning. We sat on one side of the vast, polished mahogany table, me, in the best suit I owned, Ava Sandrell, sharp and electric in a dark gray sheath dress, Miriam Locke, with a laptop and a stack of file folders, and Arthur, at the head, a silent, immovable object. They sat on the other side, Bernard Lyle, their lawyer, whose expensive suit looked rumpled, his face pale and underslept, Aunt Paula, who was theatrically pale, clutching a bottle of water with a trembling hand, and Gavin, who was vibrating with a toxic, defensive energy, his jaw tight. At the far end of the table, two men I didn't recognize sat quietly. They were from the bank's internal compliance and fraud division. This was, officially, Arthur's quarterly control review. "Good morning," Ava said, her voice crisp and loud in the silent room. "We are here, as requested by Mr. Hale, to review the disposition of certain assets. Ms. Locke, if you would—" Miriam did not say a word. She tapped a key on her laptop. The 80-inch monitor on the wall flickered to life. It wasn't a spreadsheet. It was a timeline, a clean, graphical representation of their crimes. 9:02 a.m., April 4th. Miriam's voice was a flat, digital monotone. First unauthorized charge, Shell gas station, $27. A point of light appeared on the screen. 9:20 a.m., April 8th. First fraudulent loan application, QuickLend Online, IP address 104.1.8.2. She tapped another key. This IP address is registered to Comcast Cable at 1020 Birchwood Drive, your home, Mr. Rivers. Gavin's head jerked up. Bernard Lyle put a hand on his arm. July 17th, ATM withdrawal, $500, U.S. Bank, Branch 101. A grainy, time-stamped photo filled the screen. Gavin, in a baseball cap, looking directly at the camera. August 12th, purchase, Breitling Super Ocean, $4,200. The receipt appeared. The shipping address 1020 Birchwood Drive. The serial number 81872, beside it. The anonymous photo of the watch in Paula's closet. The warranty card clearly visible. September 4th, wire transfer, Silver Pike Fund to Rivers Co. Outreach. LLC, $10,000, the bank statement. September 19th, wire transfer, Silver Pike Fund to Rivers Co. Outreach. LLC, $7,500, Memo Community Gift Drive. The screen split. On the right, Paula's Instagram post from that same afternoon. The unboxing video, time-stamped. Blessed. The caption read, the timeline went on, the wine club, the supplementary cards, the forged signature from the handwriting expert, highlighted in red. It was a cold, brutal, digital dissection of their entire grift, laid bare under the fluorescent lights of a bank conference room. Paula was no longer pale. She was flushed, a deep, angry red. Ava let the final image, the side-by-side of the bank transfer and the handbag, hang in the air for a long 10 seconds. Then, she placed a single, thick manila envelope on the table. It landed with a soft, heavy thud. "Mr. Lyle," Ava said. "That was the overview. In this envelope, you will find the signed, sworn affidavits from the two other families victimized by the Silver Pike Grant Program. You will find the full 30-page forensic signature analysis, and," she tapped a final, thin sheaf of papers. "You will find a printout of your client's email, dated October 17th, sent from her personal iPhone. in which she explicitly states, "We are only borrowing temporarily. This is her written confession. Your family misunderstanding defense is, as of this moment, void." Bernard Lyle looked at the envelope as if it were a snake. He looked at his clients. He looked at Arthur. He let out a long, slow breath. "What?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "Do you want—" Arthur, who had not spoken a word, finally leaned forward. His voice was very, very quiet, but it filled the room. "I want the truth," he paused. "I want full restitution for every cent they stole and every dollar we spent to find it." He looked at me, then back at them. "And I want my granddaughter's name scrubbed clean." The room was silent. Gavin started to speak. A low, angry mutter. But Bernard Lyle shot him a look that silenced him. At precisely 9:42 a.m., one of the quiet bank compliance officers at the end of the table cleared his throat. "Mr. Hale, Mr. Lyle, I apologize for the interruption," the banker said, his tone perfectly neutral. "But as this is an official review, I am required to inform all parties of a time-sensitive matter." He looked at his tablet. "At approximately 9:30 a.m. this morning, our international wire system flagged a transfer request. The request originated from an offshore account in the Caymans, which our records show is a primary holding for the Rivers County Outreach LLC. Paula's head snapped toward Gavin. Her mouth fell open. He had an offshore account she didn't know about. The banker continued, oblivious. The transfer request was for $250,000 to be wired to a new, unverified entity in Bice. The transfer is, of course, currently on a 24-hour administrative hold, pending a full KYC and anti-money laundering review. The look on Paula's face was not anger, it was not betrayal, it was the blank, terrifying shock of a person who has just realized they were the dumbest person in the room. He was running, and he was not taking her with him. $250,000, Miriam said, as if to herself. She tapped her keyboard. The big screen on the wall changed. The timeline was gone, replaced by a new, more complex flowchart. IRS versus Rivers, P. Rivers, G. "Which brings us to the tax implications," Miriam said, her voice bright and cold. "Our analysis shows approximately 5 years of undeclared personal income, funneled as management fees from the LLC, undeclared, fraudulently obtained income, the state and federal penalties, plus interest, are significant." She smiled. "This is the criminal tax fraud leverage. Mr. Lyle, it is no longer theoretical. It is hanging over your clients' heads, right now." The color drained from Gavin's face. This was the part he understood. This was jail. It was 9:58 a.m. Ava Sandrell stood up. She was the picture of a reasonable, helpful negotiator. "This has been a very difficult morning, but we have a final settlement proposal, a way to conclude the civil portion of this, right here, right now." She slid a single, stapled document across the table. "One, you will agree to the full restitution of $115,000, covering the $87,450 in theft and all documented legal and investigatory fees. 2, you will sign a full public retraction and apology to the board and donors of the Silver Pike Fund, admitting to the misappropriation of charitable funds. 3, you will offer your full unconditional cooperation with the Silver Pike internal audit and all related state inquiries. In exchange," Ava concluded, her voice softening, "Ms. Rodriguez will suspend her civil complaint. The criminal referrals, well, those are already filed with the state, but I'm sure your full cooperation will be looked upon very favorably by the Attorney General." It was a brilliant move. She was offering them a chance to help themselves, to trade a public mea culpa for a chance at a lighter sentence. Bernard Lyle looked at the paper. He looked at the banker. He looked at the tax map on the wall. He stood up. I need a moment," he said. "I need to confer with my clients, and I need to make a call to another party." "Of course," Ava said. "Lyle, Paula, and Gavin, huddled in the far corner of the glass room, by the window. It was not a conference. It was a muffled, vicious fight. Paula was hissing. Gavin was staring out the mist, his back rigid. Arthur looked at his watch. The second hand swept toward the 10:03 a.m. He smiled, a small, tight, satisfied smile. "Bernard," Arthur called out. The fighting stopped. "I'm afraid we're out of time." He did not wait for their answer. He took out his smartphone. He opened the black and white North Crown Bank app. He tapped the screen, his thumb hovering over a single, green button. Authorize Clause 12.4. He looked up at the compliance officer. Michael, the conditions of the escrow have been met. The system has confirmed assets derived from fraudulent activity. The confession is on the table. Please execute the transfer." My phone vibrated in my pocket. A new text, a North Crown Bank alert. "A deposit of $115,000 has been made to your custodial account." Arthur had paid me. He had used the windbag escrow he himself had funded to make me whole. The debt was settled. Not by them, but for them. At the exact same instant, his thumb tapped another button on his screen. "Send." "What was that?" I whispered. "The digital package," he said, his voice low. The moment the escrow transferred, it was the final, non-repudiable trigger, the complete, unredacted file, Paula's email, Gavin's flight plan, the tax map. The affidavits has just been digitally delivered to the State Attorney General's Criminal Division, to the IRS Special Investigations Unit, and to every board member of the Silver Pike Fund. He put his phone away. "The timestamp on every email," he said, "is 10:04 a.m. As the words left his mouth, the elevator doors across the hall dinged. We all turned. The glass doors of the elevator slid open. 3 men and 1 woman in dark, conservative, government-issue suits stepped out. They were not bankers. They carried thin leather briefcases. They moved with a grim, bureaucratic purpose. Michael, the bank compliance officer, stood up, smoothed his tie, and walked to the glass door of our conference room to greet them. "Mr. Harrison," Michael said, his voice loud enough for all of us to hear. "State Financial Crimes. We were expecting you. Right on time." Paula saw them. She saw the badges clipped to their belts. She saw the folders in their hands. Gavin saw them. He lurched backward, shoving his chair away. It caught the leg of the mahogany table, tipped, and crashed to the plush carpet with a heavy, muffled thud that sounded as loud as a gunshot in the silent room. Every security camera in the North Crown Tower, every camera in that glass-walled room, captured it. The moment the performance ended, the moment the audience left, the moment the house lights came up, blinding and harsh, to reveal the empty stage. We did not ride down in the same elevator as the state investigators. Ava, Miriam, Arthur, and I took the next one. We stood in the silent, wood-paneled car, descending the 30 floors in a strange, pressurized quiet. The crash of Gavin's overturned chair seemed to be echoing in my ears. When the doors opened to the main lobby, the atmosphere was different. It was no longer the tomb-like silence of an exclusive bank. 2 men and a woman with press badges stood near the security desk, a local business journalist and a photographer among them. Ava must have given them a quiet heads-up. "Wait here at 10:15. There might be a story." As we walked across the marble, my phone buzzed with a Google alert. The news was already breaking. It was a press release, posted online just minutes ago. I read the headline on my screen. "Silver Pike Fund announces immediate suspension of board member, pledges full cooperation with forensic audit." It was a clinical, brutal statement. It spoke of a comprehensive review of all fiduciary activities and a commitment to transparency. It was the public execution of Paula's reputation, signed by the very board she used to control. The journalists saw us. They saw Ava. They raised their cameras. "Ms. Sandrell, what's the comment on the Silver Pike audit? Is this related to the Hale Family Trust?" Ava, who had been my ruthless, silent weapon, became a different person. She was a public relations professional. She held up a single, placating hand. The flashes stopped. My client, Ms. Rodriguez, has concluded her business with the bank, Ava said, her voice clear and carrying. We have no comment on any internal family matters. My client did not seek publicity. She sought the truth, and the truth is now a matter of public record. Thank you. It was perfect. She didn't confirm or deny. She just stated a fact. The truth was out. We walked past them, the sound of camera shutters clicking behind us, and stepped out into the cold, damp Portland air. We got into Arthur's quiet sedan. The leather seats felt solid and real. I was still vibrating from the adrenaline. I pulled out my phone, my hands shaking slightly. The social media landscape, the one that had been Paula's weapon, was on fire. Her "pray for my unstable niece" post was still there, but the comments had turned. The public narrative had flipped in less than an hour. Wait, she's the one being audited by Silver Pike. This is disgusting. I donated $2,000 to that fund last year. So the unstable niece was the victim sick. I want my money back. The campaign to save Paula had become a digital mob demanding apologies. The audience, as Arthur had said, was gone. My phone buzzed again, a new text. It was from Arthur. He was sitting right next to me in the driver's seat, staring straight ahead at the wet street. But he sent a text. It was his way. It was 4 words. Go get lunch now. That was it. The operation was over. The war was won. It was not a celebration. It was an order, a quiet, definitive instruction to return to my life. I stared at the words, a sudden, strange emptiness in my chest. The fight had been all-consuming, and now it was just over. Another text came through. This one was from a number I didn't recognize, but I knew instantly who it was. My grandmother, Alina. It was a picture, a selfie. Slightly out of focus, it showed her own thin, gray hair, which she hadn't braided in years. It was pulled back in a neat, tight braid, and woven through it was a single, bright blue satin ribbon. The text underneath read, Told you, don't sell your dreams. Love, G. That was the one that broke me. Not the victory in the bank, not the humiliation of my aunt, but this quiet, defiant, shared act of strength. A single tear rolled hot down my cheek. I wiped it away, angry and relieved. That afternoon, I met with Miriam one last time. Her office was just as gray and sterile, but the massive whiteboard, my life map, was gone. It was just a blank, white surface. You're clean, she said, not smiling. Miriam didn't celebrate. She concluded. She slid a thick, spiral-bound booklet across the table to me. This is your personal risk map, she said. Your new Bible? Don't lose it. I opened it. It was a terrifyingly detailed guide to my own life. How to lock your Social Security number. Implementing a 7-year extended fraud alert. A 12-month checklist for monitoring public records. What? What happened after we left? I asked. Miriam closed her laptop. Gavin Rivers's passport was seized by the state investigators as a condition of his release. He's a flight risk. He is not going to BIS. His name is now on a federal watch list. He's grounded. And Bernard Lyle packed his briefcase, nodded to Ava, and left. He's a civil lawyer, not a criminal one. His client lied to him. He's done. He'll send them a very, very large final bill. And Paula, Miriam said, is currently at the offices of the Silver Pike Fund with their lawyers. She is signing the public apology Ava drafted, the one that will be sent to every donor. Miriam pulled a document up on her monitor. It was the draft. It was full of legalese. I failed in my fiduciary duty. I acted without board approval. But Ava had insisted on the final, brutal line. I read it. I deeply apologized to the community and to my family. I exploited family trust to fund a life I could not afford. When I got home, I logged into my North Crown custodial account. The number sat there, solid and black, $115,000. The alert from the morning was real. The escrow had been released. The money Arthur had put in the windbag was now mine, transferred and settled. The debt was paid. My name was clear. I opened my new, secure email. My inbox, which had been a desert, had 2 new messages. The first was from the boutique hotel. Dear Harper, the contract is attached. We are thrilled to have you. Welcome aboard. The second was from the gallery curator who had seen my Debt Light series. Dear Miss Rodriguez, we met with the board. They were unanimous. The honest light in your work is exactly what our new exhibit needs. We'd like to feature you as the anchor artist. Honest light, the thing they had tried to paint as instability, was now my greatest asset. That evening, I went to Arthur's house. I found him in his study, sitting in his leather chair under a single pool of warm lamplight, reading a thick history book. He looked up as I entered, marked his page, and closed the book. I came to thank you, I said. For the money, for everything. You are welcome, he said, as if I were thanking him for passing the salt. He didn't want my gratitude. He wanted competence. You have capital now, he said, his voice flat. But you lack structure. Your freelance business is vulnerable. I have been speaking to the provost at the Haldane Institute. They have a professional certificate program. Studio management and contract law. I have sponsored an internal scholarship, effective immediately. It's yours. Classes start in January. He was not asking. You will learn how to read a balance sheet, he continued. You will learn how to parse a deliverables clause. You will learn to build a legal wall around your own work. You will never be in this position again. I stood there, looking at this quiet, ruthless, impossible man. He hadn't just given me my money back. He had given me a new, clean email, a legal team, a paid-off bridge fund, 2 new clients, and now a business degree. He hadn't just won the war. He had rewritten the terms of the peace. You know, I said, my voice quiet. Everyone is going to say you saved me, that you rode in and rescued your poor, broke granddaughter. He just watched me, his face unreadable in the lamplight. You didn't save me, Grandpa, I said. The realization hit me as I said the words. You didn't save me at all. You taught me how to swim in the rapids. You pointed out the rocks and made me navigate. He almost smiled. Go to school, Harper. I did not attend the preliminary hearing. Ava insisted on it. She said my presence was not required to prove a bank statement, and she didn't want to give Paula a live audience for her emotional theater. The legal system, as it turned out, was not interested in tears. It was only interested in Miriam's timeline. Ava called me from the courthouse steps. Her voice was flat, professional. The sound of a job concluded. It's done, she said. What? What happens? I asked. My apartment felt too quiet. The evidence was ruled overwhelming. The prosecutor laid out the wire fraud, the identity theft, the tax evasion, and the signed affidavits from the other families. They had no defense. Bernard Lyle's entire job today was to stop his clients from perjuring themselves. So, a trial. No trial, Ava said. They were offered a plea deal, a very strict one. They plead guilty to multiple felony counts. In exchange, they agree to cooperate fully with the IRS investigation and the ongoing Silver Pike audit, and they agree to full, court-ordered restitution to everyone, the families they stole grants from, the fund, and you. The plea deal was the first crack. The dam broke the next day. The Silver Pike Fund released the full independent audit to the public. It was a bloodbath. The journalist who had been in the North Crown lobby published the entire report. It listed 17 virtual projects, Gavin's Guatemala Computer Lab, which had never been built, a community food drive that consisted of Paula's Instagram handbag, and thousands of dollars in transportation assistance that matched the lease payments on their luxury cars. The Portland philanthropic scene was in an uproar. The donors were not just asking for their money back, they were suing the fund for damages to their own reputations. And then, the State Department of Revenue sent its final assessment. With the guilty plea, all negotiations were over. The bill arrived at their house: 5 years of back taxes on undeclared, stolen income, plus interest, plus a 75% civil fraud penalty. It was a number so large it was meaningless. It was a life sentence of debt. Bernard Lyle, his job of minimizing their criminal sentences now complete, quietly filed his notice to withdraw as counsel. They were on their own. My final meeting with Ava was in her own office, not Miriam's. It was warmer, with abstract art on the walls and a view of the river. She slid a thick, bound document toward me, the civil settlement agreement. It was signed by Paula, by Gavin, and by the court. 100%, Ava said, tapping the final number. $87,450, plus calculated interest, plus all documented legal and administrative fees. It's already in your account. As you know, this just memorializes their debt to the escrow. But they don't have that money, I said quietly. No, they don't. They will be paying it off for the rest of their lives. A percentage of whatever minimum wage income they can earn will be garnished, forever. But you, she said, her voice softening for the first time, are already whole. Arthur's fund covered it. This document is about the debt. But this next one... She handed me a stack of letters, fresh from the mail. These are the official confirmation letters from Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. The fraudulent accounts have been removed. The late payments are gone. The defaults are erased. As of today, your credit score is back over 800. I held the letters. They were just paper, but they felt heavier than the check. They were my name, my clean, blank, repaired name. Arthur requested one last meeting, back at North Crown Tower. I didn't understand why. I had my money. I had my name. But I went. I stood in the vast, echoing marble atrium, feeling small and out of place, just as I had on the first day. The digital clock on the wall read 10:03 a.m. I found myself watching the main elevator bank, my heart pounding a slow, heavy rhythm. At 10:04 a.m., precisely, the elevator doors dinged. They slid open. A single man in a simple bank suit walked out. He was not an investigator. He was not a lawyer. He was the escrow manager. He spotted me, walked over, and offered a small, polite smile. "Ms. Rodriguez," he said. He handed me a simple, white North Crown envelope. "This is the final closing statement. The custodial account is now fully yours. The escrow is dissolved, and all liens are satisfied. This is your formal notification." He paused, then added, "It's complete. Your name is clean." He shook my hand, turned, and walked back to the elevator. I didn't open the envelope. I knew what it said. I just stood there. My hand closed around it, and looked out the